top the funnel and how to do the execution and top of the funnel. Mark, thank you very much for being back with us.
Thanks, Susan. Happy to be here.
So the first time we talk about science and how a PhD from Harvard ended up in sales when usually is the other way. Now we're going to start talking about specific things. So I want to hear about it.
So when we talk about the top of the funnel, that's probably it's usually in the domain of marketing and figuring out how do you identify your prospects. And typically what I do is I usually come to a company and they've got some sales and they've identified a population that they've already sold to. So the first question we want to look into is, what is the population they sold to? And then try to figure out, can we pattern match around that? And if it's very diverse, are there any strong or weak points? So the first phase is essentially find company demographic information. So any information that you can find about a company. So is there a particular industry, is there a particular size, is there a particular revenue, is there, a particular type of thing that they sell? What demographic information can you identify from those companies? Then from there, try to dig deeper. If they've had some sales, then you could usually come back and find out who do they talk to. And they, typically for an enterprise sales today, it takes somewhere between 4 and 8 people to close that deal. Who is that first or second person that came in? Or who is that champion? And sometimes that requires some interviewing.
I would say the first follower, who is the person who's going to open or close the door on the companies. I call who is going to be the devil and who's going to be an angel in a negotiation.
Well, it's who could I get? What type of persona profile can I identify that would best help me get in the door that I can resonate with? And one of the tricks that I do here, because looking for company demographic information is relatively easy, now I'm going to look at a number of these different companies and say, okay, this is the type of title I'm looking for. Now I really want to understand what's a day in the life of that individual. So I'll go out and we'll do research and say, all right, for companies that fit the profile, what are all the job ads for someone of that title for, let's say, the last 5 years? And then scrape down all the roles and responsibilities. So then you have a database of all this information of people that fulfill this role at this type of company. This is what their day-to-day is like. Because what you want to do is you want to find out every quarter they're going to talk to their boss, and their boss is going to say, give you a rating on one of several things. So the closer I can align my product to help them become a rock star with one of their roles and responsibilities, the greater chance I have of them, moving forward in a call. So once I reach them, having them open an email, having them respond to an email, having them respond positively on a call. So then now I'm able to take that company demographic, marry it up with an individual at that company, and then come up with a specific message. And with this database, you probably get a number of different roles, so you'll have a number of different messages that you can start resonating with people. So you start sending out, you try to tailor it as personal as possible, but then you have that key thing that's going to resonate with them. And then you have multiple emails, multiple phone calls. When you leave voicemails, you could talk about these different things. And when you reach them, you can quickly discuss which one are they most responsible for. Because at the end of the day, your product, there's probably a dozen different products that can do similar things. What you need to do is stand out that your product is not just a product. You're going to help them be a rock star, and you're going to help them out as an individual and help them with their career.
Basically, your database is, for example, if you're going to talk to a sales manager, you know what all the tasks ask for the last 5 years in sales managers. So instead to says, what is your problem? You're directly talking about the problem that and you know what is the daily base activity they have. So instead to ask for problems, you're actually talking about solutions because you have all the data, because you use the science for this.
Yes, exactly. And what I tell my guys is, when you're calling someone, you've got to build trust, and then you got to build but you only build trust by having credibility. You can only build credibility with domain expertise. So if I call you up and I say, hey, Mr. Director of Inside Sales, I know that one of the things that you guys have trouble with is being able to measure X, Y, and Z, in a much more eloquent way, then we're able to, they're going to say, great, you understand my issue. And then they'll be more inclined to listen to you, because now I'm talking to a domain expert. And if I'm talking to a domain expert, I'm getting some credibility, and trust is the only thing that sells. And credibility gives trust.
I have a question. When we was preparing the webinar, it says, okay, a really good sales rep was moving to the manager position. And I read in research that says the 60% of the managers, they don't know what they need to do. Just move to that position because they were really good in what they're doing. So one of the questions is have like, what I need to teach first my sales rep about the company, about the product, or I need to teach them the strategy how to sell. People is like, what I need to do first, because we have a sales team. We don't have 3 months to put it on the market. We need to get it like making phone calls in 2 months. So products, company with strategy. What do you think you need to come first at the time of selling?
The biggest issue that most sales reps have is they can sell anything. And they just believe, doesn't matter what it is, I could sell cars, I could sell software, I could sell pens. You have to have some base level of domain expertise. And this is, coming to my current company, this is one of the learning things that I've learned is that and it depends on who you're selling to. So if you're selling to, IT people who are extremely technical, you're never going to build up that credibility and trust if you don't have a certain level of technical chops to understand the expertise, because they're going to push you into a corner. You're not going to understand. Your sales rep, you don't necessarily want to say, I don't know, and give weakness, and you're going to end up losing sale after sale. So there's always a base level of domain expertise that you have to have. Then,
so somebody's been selling cars cannot move to selling intangibles like IT or software, because they're not going to be talking about the same language. They're not going to have the same dictionary.
Well, they're going to have to be trained in understanding what it is, and that's up to a company. So a larger, more established company will put people through a boot camp, and they'll have training in specific courses. You move to a startup, and if you don't have that domain expertise, they don't have that bench to be able to help bring you up to speed. If you move from one startup to another startup that does software, maybe you'll have that expertise, but it's, there's a distinct difference between selling sales enablement software, IT security software, and content migration software. Even though they're all software, they're selling to different buyers, so you do not have that deep understanding of the personas. They're all selling to different company needs, so you don't understand what is the implication of each of those softwares. And then but then there's the base of selling, which is, how do we build relationships? And if people don't trust you, they're not going to buy from you. And if you don't understand what you're selling and who you're selling to, they're just not going to trust you.
Somebody told me an advice a long time ago when we went from private consulting to public consulting is choose your customer before you choose your business. Because if you need to spend 3 calls explaining what you do to your customer, it's not your right customers. What is your approach on that?
So when you say just...
Like, for example, if I call you and says, hey, Mark, I'm a human behavior hacker. Some people hack computers, I hack humans. I do microexpression, body language, phrase reading, and I need to have 3 emails or 3 calls to you understand what I'm doing and how I do it and what market I do it. Most people says it's not your client. You need to have people who is prepared and is your client. The same way you need to have sales rep who knows about tangible or intangible. You need to have customers who are pre-educated on the traits, on the product that you sell. So they told me, choose your customers before you choose your business, because you're going to have problems with customers who don't understand the product, and you're going to have more rejection. So what is your approach on that?
So, well, part of it is, understanding is you want to come at it the other way and say, hey, we sold sales enablement software. It's like, hey, you're VP of sales. We know you're a VP of sales to a manufacturing company. You've got an older sales rep, a very dispersed sales team, and there's a large volume of those sales reps. We understand, and we know that your company, your industry in plumbing, comes out with 3 or 4 new products every month. How often do these sales reps ask you for the exact same collateral that you've trained them on last month? And they're like, now we've built our credibility that we understand our buyer. Now I don't have to describe what I do. I'm describing that I totally understand their problem. Now that I understand their problem, now I can move and switch into a different gear. So the more that I'm able to prove that I understand their problem, the more that I'm able to go. Because if we sold a digital catalog that was, very technical, high to build up, we can go deep into the technology that we were providing for them. But that would confuse everybody. With Duo Security, we sold two-factor authentication back when through your phone, back when two-factor authentication all came through a key fob. So that would have been very difficult to describe. So we would come at folks and just say, hey, your user is you look to protect your user. How do you protect your user? What's the one device that your users, if someone leaves their house in the morning without their car keys or cell phone, they're more likely to go back to their house for their cell phone than their car keys, particularly in big cities where they don't have to drive a car. So when we show that we understand their pain and their day in their life, then they're more apt to listen to how we built credibility. They're apt to listen to how we will solve.
What are the 3 things the sales teams are lacking today they should incorporate? Only 3. I could ask 5, but I'm going to ask only for 3.
So the first one is rigorous data analysis. So what we do here is I'm looking with the outbound prospecting team, I'm looking at activities, pipeline, and revenue generated. This is coming straight from Mike Weinberg's Sales Management Simplified. And being able to say, all right, and then diving into the data analysis and figuring out, all right, are my numbers proper? What are the raw dials, raw emails? What are the activities I need to drive pipeline? How much pipeline do I need to drive revenue? And looking at these dashboards and being really analytical about it and making sure you understand that data then so that's the quantitative side. Looking at the qualitative side, okay, I have those phone calls. So using things like SalesLoft or Gong or Chorus.ai or Dialpad that record those calls, and now being able to listen to, a couple of those calls, reading those emails. All right, what's the tone of my sales reps? What's their voice? What's their pitch? How quickly are they talking? Because as you know, the way that they communicate helps them close business. Or helps them move to the next level. If you talk too quickly and talk without intonation, your prospect's not going to be particularly interested. And then number 3 is, how do I take this all together holistically? So I could have a rep who's just pounding the emails, but they're sending very dry, painful emails, and they call the people on the phone and they are very monotonic. How do I coach that person to be, I could say, great, you're getting your numbers up. Let's slow down the numbers, but make you more of a persona. Or you have someone who's doing a fantastic job. They're getting 100% conversion rate, but they're sending 3 emails a day and making 5 calls. Great conversion rate, but we're going to go out of business with their conversion rate. So how do we speed them up? So essentially it's understanding the data analysis, understanding the quality side of what is the interaction of the sales, and then be able to take those 2 together and figure out what is a prescriptive coaching approach for each of those reps.
Mark, I know you are short in time, and again, I took more time than I should talking with you before, but I want to talk in the next one. What are the missing pieces on the regular sales scale that we have from 20 years to today? Actually, from the last 5 years, sales has changed so much. Now we have sign, we have behavioral, we have body language, we have so many things. We have LinkedIn persona, we have media persona, people Google you. So this has changed so fast that some companies that are too big haven't had time to go to the process. So I'm going to compromise you in camera to have you one more time. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.